This is a review for American Chimney and Fireplace in Louisville, Kentucky, formerly known for 13 years as All American Chimney Service. The trained and certified professionals at this company recommended to me, sold to me, and installed a wood stove that is much too powerful for my bedroom. So much so that the agencies that certify them have people who have told me don't use the stove. It's not safe. So I'm going to talk about how this happened, how I found out, why it's a safety hazard, and what the owner's response has been to me regarding this. So on their website, they show several wood stoves, and the smallest one was the Vermont Castings Aspen C3. The heating capacity is 400 to 1,200 square feet, and my house is 910. The peak BTUs per hour is 35,200. My furnace puts out 38,000. So it seemed to me this might be a good stove. I went into the business. I talked to the salesman, Dwayne, and I took a diagram of the floor plan of my house. I told him I have no experience with wood stoves. I wanted something for backup heat in case of a power outage. I did not want to use it for regular heat. It was only for power outages, and I only wanted to heat one bedroom. I wasn't interested in heating the entire house. I wanted to know, did he think the Aspen C3 would be okay, or did I need something smaller, or did he have something better? And he said the Aspen C3 should be just fine. And to be sure, I needed to pay $115 for them to come out and give me an estimate. So I agreed to that. Before Andrew came out to the estimate, I saw a YouTube video. The channel is called Live Simple, Live Free. The title, Vermont Castings Wood Stove Review First Season. The couple bought the Aspen C3 for their 900 square foot house, and they put it in their living room. And while they love the stove, they said it got way too hot for that room. It would get up to 90 degrees. This was a problem for them, and they were trying to figure out, should they put vents in the walls? So this concerned me because it seemed like, the same size space that I've got. So I looked at another video they did. They installed the stove themselves, and they didn't follow manufacturer's instructions. They put a damper in the stovepipe, and they even modified the damper. So I thought it was possible that they had screwed up their stove, and that's why it was so hot. And I didn't know, but it was concerning to me. So I took these screenshots 90 minutes before Andrew showed up. And I talked about with him that I've seen this video, their house gets too hot, they want to put vents in their walls, and are you sure that this stove is not going to be too powerful for this room? Andrew assured me it would work. And as he is trained, this is his job. So when he told me that, I trusted him, but I still thought it'd be a good idea to go ahead and get the vents. It didn't sound like a bad idea. So he sent me the estimate, and I went in to sign the contract and put 50% down on the stove. So on the back of the estimate, I again drew the floor plan of my house, and I discussed it one more time with the business manager, Levi. I brought up the video. Are you sure that this isn't going to get too hot in that room? He assured me it would be fine. Now, the marks you see in pencil, those are the vents. That's where Levi said to put the vents. He drew those there. Where it says over the door, that's his handwriting. So we went over this. So I put the money down, signed the contract. So how did I find out that this was oversized? Well, as I've shown you, I've ended up finding out they didn't do a lot of things right. And another thing I found out was they didn't even have a permit when they did the installation. And I discussed it with a friend, and she told me she thought the stove was way oversized and it was going to get too hot, and I wasn't going to be happy with it. So I called Vermont Castings, and I asked the lady if this stove would work in a 103 square foot bedroom. And the lady said, "Oh no, I wouldn't do that. No, it's going to get way too hot for that room. The recommended minimum size is 400 square feet. And I told her, well, your dealer has sold me the stove, and they've installed it, and they did all these things wrong, and then I found out they didn't have a permit, and she said, what do you want from me? And I said, I want you to talk to them and tell them I want the stove taken back. I want them to give me my money back, and I want them to pay for me to get my walls and ceiling fixed. And she said they would look into that. She sent me a follow-up email that they were going to talk to the distributor to try to get the issue resolved. A week or two after that, I talked to Levi about the sizing issue. And because he wanted to come out, and I'm like, I'm not ready for this yet. So he called, I guess, him or Doug, they called Vermont Castings, and then I get another email that backtracked from Vermont Castings. They backtracked, and now they're saying, well, if your dealer has decided that it will work, we're not going to speak against that. So they threw the ball in his court. Okay, so what did I do? What else did I do? I called the places that give them their certifications. And that's the National Fire Institute, and it's the Chimney Safety Institute of America. Might be the Fireplace Institute, I can't remember. And I talked to people at both places, and I said, look, somebody has put a 35,000 BTU stove in my 103 square foot bedroom. I said, I've got vents on each of the interior walls, and I have a window on the exterior wall. I asked, can I crack the window? Is there any way I can make this work? And people at both places told me no. They said, this is way too powerful for this size of the room. It's a safety hazard. It's going to cause oxygen depletion. Don't use the stove. Okay. So then I looked up to find out, well, what size stove would be right for my bedroom. And these are the results. They varied, but if it's 5 degrees outside, the highest number would be about 11,000 BTUs. If it's 30 degrees outside, about 7,000 BTUs. Another calculator says 6,000. Another one says 5,000. Another one says 3,100. This one says 4,500. And this one says 5,500 to 7,500. So I have gone through every calculator I could find on the internet, and there is nothing anywhere that supports putting a 35,000 BTU stove in a space this size. Okay, now why? Let's talk about this here. Hang on. Be aware that the definition of space doesn't necessarily mean the size of the entire house. Well, see, I thought it did. Okay. If a stove is located in a fairly isolated room in a home that does not have a forced air system to recirculate the heat, and that would be my house if there's no power, then the stove should be sized to heat not much more than the size of the room it's in. Now, I didn't understand that but I'm not in the business of selling wood stoves or installing wood stoves. This is dangerous equipment. You need to know what you're doing. This is why you pay these people. This is why you pay so much money, because they're supposed to know what they're doing and do it right. So, why is this a safety hazard? A large stove installation in a small home will likely heat you out of the room and create a lot of creosote from burning smaller fires. Let's really focus on that sentence. It will create a lot of creosote from burning smaller fires. Okay, creosote is a fire hazard, and we'll look at that in a minute. But burning smaller fires is exactly what Doug is going to tell me to do. The EPA-rated stoves are meant to be fully loaded. This is an EPA-rated stove. Okay, creosote is a combustible, and if it is set afire, the resulting chimney fire is extremely hot. Creosote tar, a natural byproduct of burning wood, is carried into the chimney as a vapor in the smoke. But this creosote tar vapor condenses as a liquid onto the cooler chimney sides as smoke passes up the chimney in flue. Okay, so it ends up on the sides of the chimney, and once the fire is over, it hardens. And then when somebody builds another fire, it can catch on fire. Okay, once ignited, the deposits of creosote burn at very high temperatures, so hot in fact that depending on the amount of creosote that is burning, a runaway chimney fire occurs. Let's do one more. Creosote buildup is the main cause of chimney fires. The creosote is combustible, so once it has built up, one hot fire can cause all that creosote to ignite. Okay. So, when I talked to Doug, I talked to him about the stove being oversized, and he said, well, but Vermont Castings sent you an email telling you that it's up to your dealer to determine the correct sizing, and I have determined that it will work. Okay, so in order for Doug to determine that that would work, here's what he did. He disregarded the manufacturer's recommendation because the recommended minimum was 400 square feet, and my room is 103.5. So the space is 1/4 the size of the recommended minimum. But Doug thinks that's okay. I wonder if I could put in my bathroom. I wonder if that would be okay with Doug. All right, so I told him that I looked up the BTUs, and there's nothing that even comes close to 35,000 recommended for a room this size, and he said it would be fine. And I said, prove it with documentation, because I can't find a calculator that says that works. Doug has never done that. I told Doug that I had spoken to people at the certification agencies, and that they had told me that it was unsafe and it would cause oxygen depletion. And Doug says that is their opinion. And in my opinion, it will work. And he kept pressuring me to set an appointment so they could come out here and replace that broken brick. So anyway, he told me, oh, it'll be fine. Just crack the window and build smaller fires. And when he said that to me, that was it. I hung up on him because I had done my homework at this point, and I knew this guy did not care about my safety. So let's see what's happened. They've done pretty much everything wrong with the installation. They did it without a permit. They put in an oversized stove. And instead of doing the right thing and giving me my money back, taking care of all this, instead of doing that and maybe apologizing, he's put a lien on my house and he's filed a lawsuit. And the wording in the documentation is he's trying to blame me. If I'm not happy with the stove, it's my fault because I signed the contract and I chose the stove. Okay. Well, I did that because 3 of your trained professionals told me it would work. Even after I questioned it. You kept telling me it would work. So, this is the kind of business that Doug is running. So think about that before you do any business with this company. And in the next video, we're going to look at how he didn't have a permit, and we're going to look at some government documents, and we're going to look at what I found when I did a open records request from the government. So come on back.